We want to join with Jason Whiteley, who's a senior political reporter at our sister station in Dallas-Fort Worth, host of Inside Texas Politics and the podcast Y'all-itics. Jason, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now what we're talking about, the fact that Texas redistricting attempts are really making a lot of waves. And last time we heard, it sounds like the governor there, Greg Abbott, is trying to, I guess, force in some ways these Democrats who have decamped, as we previously reported here on WCNC Plus. And the Democrats are trying to do this to deny the quorum needed to essentially pass these plans. What can you explain, just in a nutshell, if you're able to, for our viewers here in the Carolinas, about what you're dealing with in Texas? And of course, a big interest to us because we dealt and are still dealing with, the consequences of redistricting here in North Carolina.
Yeah. The Texas Democrats were talking about that just this morning when I was speaking to them. The Democrats right now from Texas, the House of Representatives, the Democrats there, the minority party in the state House of Representatives, have moved to a western suburb of Chicago. That's where we are right now. This is St. Charles, Illinois. And for people who don't understand redistricting, it's this nebulous, murky term. What the heck does that even mean? Anyways, the bottom line here is that the midterm elections are coming up in 2026. The party in power usually loses control of Congress. And right now, Republicans have a 3-seat majority in Congress. President Trump doesn't want to lose that very narrow majority. So he's asking Texas, the legislature in Texas, the largest Republican state in the United States, to redraw the congressional lines and make it easier for at least 5 more Republicans to win, to defeat 5 incumbent Democrats. So that's why the Democrats are really sounding the alarm here. They didn't really have an option. They don't have numbers big enough to stop this in the legislature with votes. The only real option they had was the Hail Mary, this nuclear option they've actually employed. That's physically leaving the state to deny a quorum. So the House of Representatives is going to meet in about 35 minutes or so in Austin, Texas, and they're not going to have enough members there to actually conduct business. So that's why the Democrats have taken off here. And unlike these that have happened in the past, in 2003 and in 21, this one really has national implications because control of Congress really hangs in the balance here with what happens in Austin.
Now, I mean, I alluded to the fact that the governor, Greg Abbott, is now weighing in, essentially threatening consequences and talking about some of the things that he could potentially do to try to get the Democrats to come back. What can you explain about that aspect?
Sure.
And is this an actual option that the governor has?
Yeah, great questions. The first thing that the Democrats who left Texas and came here to St. Charles, Illinois, are going to face are $500 a day fines for every single day that they miss. That is the House rules in the Texas House of Representatives. So every day between now and August 19th, which is the end of the special legislative session, they're going to stay here in Illinois that long. They'll face $500 for every day. Now, the governor is saying, Governor Greg Abbott from Texas is saying, listen, that's not all. We want to do a number of things here. In fact, our Republican Attorney General, Ken Paxton, gave an opinion on this a few years ago that if you leave the state, then we can go to court and ask a judge to declare your seat has been vacated because it's not your place of residence anymore. But the Democrats here say, listen, that makes no sense. Our mortgage is still in Texas. Our water bill there, our property taxes we pay are still in Texas. That's our homestead. Coming up here for a few weeks is not like we're moving our residents up here. So it's a legal long shot. Some Republicans that I've been talking to say, nah, maybe not necessarily, because it could get tied up in court. But everyone that I'm talking to legal wise say it's doubtful this can happen, because if the governor leaves a state for anything, and he has done it, who hasn't left your state, then the same thing could be applied to him perhaps.
So, I mean, I mentioned the fact, too, here in the Carolinas, we've talked about this topic at length in recent years, particularly, and we've seen, consequences, if you will, actual real life, effects of redistricting in the sense of, we've had various incumbent Democrats in some seats basically decide that they're not going to run again, or they're going to try to seek a different seat because they realize the way it's been redistricted at this point is truly an uphill battle, and they're not even going to win the seat. So it's changed that much. And I mean, the other thing that we're seeing here, more recently in recent weeks is this federal trial over, plans. And the complaint that we're seeing in that specific trial is the dilution of black voting power. So I guess I'm just curious, in Texas, what are some of the concerns that Democrats say that they have about these plans?
That is the very concern they have is, listen, if you're going to redraw these lines, these Democratic districts, and put more Republican voters inside these districts, it is going to dilute the minority voters who are already in there, who were protected by the 1965 Civil Rights, the Voting Rights Act. And these districts that have been targeted, 5 total, 2 of them are in South Texas, in the very tip of Texas, down where Elon Musk launches his SpaceX rockets from. Those are huge Latino districts. There are some in Houston. There are some in Dallas as well. And those districts are mainly black voters that make up those. So the Democrats say, listen, by redistricting, by redrawing these lines and putting more Republican voters in here, you're going to dilute the power that the Democrats actually have in this state, the Democratic voters, the black voters, the Latino voters, even some Asian voters. I just interviewed a state rep here a moment ago from Dallas, a Democrat from Dallas, and he said this boils down to one thing. The lawmakers in Texas, in this case, the Republican lawmakers in control, they want to pick their constituents rather than constituents wanting to pick their lawmakers.
So I guess my next question is, what could potentially come next? Because I believe there's a deadline that might even be 20 minutes away at this point. I'm trying to think Central Time because we're here on the East Coast, but I think it's 3 p.m. Central Time, by which the governor says, this is when we want to reconvene, and if you're not here, then this is when we start to put the hammer down. What comes in next in that point? And I'm even looking down the road because, presumably you're probably going to have some Democrats who say that they're going to stay where they are. Can they stay there forever? They can't stay there forever, right?
That's a great question. Having covered this in 2003 when the Senate Democrats left over redistricting, and then in 2021 when they left over the Voting Rights Act in Texas, they can't stay here forever. This is all about getting the news cycle for Democrats, raising the attention, raising the flag on this. Sounding off to let everyone know that this is, for the first time really for Texas Democrats, this really is a national issue. They cannot stay here forever. And the House of Representatives gavels back into session in 19 minutes from now at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Central Time here. And they're going to reconvene, as always. The Speaker of the House will come in, gavel in, ask the clerk to call roll. The clerk will ask everyone present to ring their little bell on their desk, and you'll see the vote boards go up. And there won't be almost 60 members present. So you have to have 2/3 of the members. There's 150 members in the Texas House of Representatives. At least 100 have to be there. There will be 85 to 90 who are actually going to be there today. The governor doesn't really have a lot of say or sway in this right now. This is something that's protected by the Texas Constitution, the state constitution, and the Democrats say, we know we can't stay here forever. It's going to be very expensive for us to be here just for the 12, 14 days that we're going to be here for now. But at the end of the day, Republicans in Texas, they control the state. They have majorities. They win elections. They're going to get what they want out of this. The Democrats just hope to raise the flag on this and let people know about it before it's too late.
Yeah. I feel like we see that a lot lately in the sense of, obviously there's a big disparity in the country in the sense of, you do have one side that feels a certain way, and way on the other side of the aisle, you have this other group, and this other group is not in power, but we see a lot of attempts to, I guess, get the word out, put the headlines out there, if you will. But in the end, they know that it's probably not going to go their way. When you look down at the process of how things are actually playing out, by the way, the rules are, if you will.
Yeah, and that's the question I've been asking lawmakers this morning from Texas. What does a win look like? And all of them individually told me that a win is if they can get people to know about this issue, this nebulous redistricting, and why it actually is important to them, because it might break up some minority districts in Dallas and Houston, and even down in the Austin area, and then in South Texas too. That's what they consider a win. But at the end of the day, Republicans tell me too, listen, if the Democrats are making a big deal out of this, they should concentrate and focus on winning elections. That's how you take control. And Republicans in Texas have only been in control since the early 2000s. They've had 25 to 30 years of control in the state. Prior to that, for more than a century, dating back to Reconstruction, Democrats were doing these things here. So both sides play the political games. We just happen to be living through this moment in history when Republicans have the ball in the court.
All right. So I guess what comes next for you? What are you looking out for as the senior political reporter who is on this beat right now?
Yeah, having covered these in the past, I think one thing that we'd be looking for is for the Speaker of the Texas House of Representatives, a guy named Dustin Burrows. After he calls roll, there's not going to be a quorum present. The clerk will tell him that. He can do a procedural thing. So he'll say, okay, I want to put a call out to have all lawmakers, all members of the House come in. And at the same time, he can simultaneously issue civil arrest warrants to have police pick up the members of the Texas House of Representatives who are not there at the chamber. Now, this is the reason they came to Illinois. This is the reason some went to Boston, some went to Albany, New York as well this morning. They are in Democratic states, and the Democratic governor of these states, J.B. Pritzker, in this case here in Illinois, is not going to take a call from Texas, from Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, who might call and say, hey, listen, we have our Democrats up there. Do you mind picking them up, put them on a flight, and flying them back to Austin? That's not going to happen. If they went to North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, even Georgia, even Florida, Governor Abbott could call the Republican governors of those states, have the state troopers in those states, the state police, go pick them up, but that's not going to happen here. So this is going to be a long, drawn-out game. The challenge for Democrats right now is how long can they sustain this? You and I are talking about this today on Monday. The quorum of break officially hasn't happened. It happens in 15 minutes from now. So they have to sustain this through August the 19th. It's got to go for a while. And keeping the public attention on this is going to be the biggest challenge for them.
It is tough, I guess, when you consider how news moves these days, you know, each development that happens. Jason Whiteley, thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
Really interesting stuff. We appreciate it.
Thank you.